guys, it's Izzy here, and today we are going to be looking at my 5-star predictions for 2023. So these are not books that are released in 2023. Well, one of them does, but the other 11 don't. My plan is to read one of these books every month. That might not always happen. I don't think it's going to happen this month, but I read triple digits last year, so reading 12 books shouldn't be that difficult. But those are the plans. Hopefully we can do it. In this video, I'm going to be telling you the descriptions of the books, which I did get from Goodreads, so these aren't descriptions written by me. I just wanted to say that. And I will say why I'm intrigued by this book, why I want to read this book. And then probably in December or January of next year, I will do a video telling y'all my thoughts on these books. But obviously, click that subscribe button because I am going to be doing wrap-ups every other month. And then I vlog every single day. So you get weekly vlogs, and I will be discussing these books in all of those videos, or the vlogs that I read the book. But it will I usually have the books in the thumbnail of the video. But let's get into it. The book we're going to be starting with is Betty, a novel by Tiffany McDaniel, who is also the author of The Summer That Melted Everything. I've never heard of that book, but look at this cover. I love the colors. As you can tell, Blue Ridge Mountains, which is my part of the United States, the South. So let me tell y'all what Betty is all about. So begins the story of Betty Carpenter. Born in a bathtub in 1954 to a Cherokee father and a white mother, Betty is the 6th of 8 siblings. The world they inhabit is one of poverty and violence, both from outside the family and devastatingly within. The lush landscape, rich with birdsong, wild fruit, and blazing stars becomes a refuge for Betty. But when her family's darkest secrets are brought to light, she has no choice but to reckon with those spirits hidden in the hills, as well as the heart-wrenching cruelties and incredible characters she encounters in her rural Ohio town. Inspired by her own mother, Tiffany McDaniel sets out to free the past by telling this story. Now, why am I excited for this book? Well, the setting, which I know Ohio is not really the South, but Appalachia, yeah. I think that's a really interesting setting, and we're inspired by generations of a family and the lush landscape. That I love that kind of description, so I feel like the writing's going to be descriptive. And then just this kind of time period is one that I'm kind of fascinated by at the moment, kind of after World War II, but it's just very different after that. And so I'm fascinated by that. Let's see, how long is this book? It is 465 pages. I still think I am going to pick up the audiobook if I want to get to it this month. I feel like I have to read the audiobook, but if I read it in February, then I won't be doing the audiobook. I'll be reading physically. The next book is, I don't own it yet because it does come out a week from the day that you're watching this video, and that is Love, Pamela. This is Pamela Anderson's memoir. Pamela Anderson's blonde bombshell was ubiquitous, I could never say that word, in the 1990s. Discovered in the stands during a Canadian football game, she was quickly launched into stardom, becoming Playboy's favorite cover girl and a Hollywood sex icon. Yet the Pamela Anderson we think we know was created by happenstance, rather than careful cultivation. Love, Pamela brings forth her true story, that of a small-town girl getting tangled in her own dream. Pamela forged ahead in finding sanctuary in her love of art and literature, and emerged a devoted mother and activist. Now having to return to her childhood island after a memorable run starring as Roxy in the Broadway play Chicago, Pamela Anderson is telling her own story. So Pamela Anderson is somebody who I look up to in modeling, and then in just how much she cares, like, about animals, about other people. And she's an extremely intelligent woman, and I think this is something that we see a lot of in Hollywood. People will just be like, oh, she's just a blonde bimbo or whatever, about multiple people, not just Pamela. And I think that a lot of people see a pretty face but don't think there's smarts behind it. But Pamela Anderson, if you listen to her interviews, she is seriously such an intelligent woman. And then she's someone who has had a lot taken from her and have had other people try to tell her story, and maybe not tell it in the way that she wants it to be told, and just people who are trying to make money off her trauma. And she is finally setting the record straight, claiming that back for herself, her claiming her story back and being able to tell her own story. There's also going to be a Netflix documentary that goes along with this book. I know, I'm kind of emotional just thinking about it, thinking about a woman who is going back and claiming her life, really, in a sense, and just proving to the world that she's not what the world perceives her as. And I'm glad that people are finally starting to see that. Even though, like, I saw some excerpts from this book of saying how she was sexually harassed by some castmates on TV shows, and people were, like, in the comments still just making jokes about it, and it's kind of disgusting that her life has constantly been like that, literally for, like, the past 30 years, and it's just so sad that, so I'm glad that she's finally getting to tell her story, and I just hope that people are smart enough to actually understand it. Now we have another nonfiction pick, and that is The Medici by Mary Hollingsworth. This is a huge nonfiction. Let's see what it's about. Wealthy bankers, wise politicians, patrons of the arts, and glittering dukes. So runs the traditional telling of the Medici family story. The family that ruled Florence for 200 years and inspired the birth of the Italian Renaissance. In its definite account of the rise and fall of the Medici, Mary Hollingsworth argues that the Medici were wise rulers and enlightful leaders of the Renaissance. In truth, she says the Medici were just as devious as the Borgia family. Tyrants loathed in the city that they made their own, in which they beggared in their lust for power. So I just find the Medici family very interesting, and nice colored photographs. A lot of times nonfiction, oh, the bookmark fell out. A lot of times nonfiction nowadays doesn't have the colored photographs, and I feel like if we're talking the Renaissance, we need color. Like, that's just part of it. And this is just, I feel like, the book on the Medici family for nonfiction. I've always just been incredibly fascinated by them when I first learned about them in, I think, the 7th grade, maybe 7th grade. And yeah, I've been extremely fascinated ever since. There's been a Netflix series, which is also on Italian TV. I've watched both. And yes, so I can't wait to learn more about them. And I feel like this isn't going to be sugarcoating. It's saying they've done devious things, illegal things, and that is true. We don't need to glamorize people for, yeah. Not everybody's perfect, and I think that needs to be shown for everybody throughout history. Now we have Ghostwritten by David Mitchell. Literally, I want to read so many of this man's books, but I feel like you have to read them in a certain order because they're all connected. So I think that in publication order, this is the first book. A gallery attendant at the Hermitage, a young jazz buff in Tokyo, a crooked British lawyer in Hong Kong, a disc jockey in Manhattan, a physicist in Ireland, an elderly woman running a tea shack in rural China, a cult-controlled terrorist in Okinawa. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, my bad. A musician in London, a transmigrating spirit in Mongolia. What is the common thread of coincidences or destiny that connects the lives of these 9 souls in 9 far-flung countries across the globe? What pattern do they connect through space and time? One of my favorite themes. Okay, I'm just gonna look at my phone because this is a very long paragraph with a lot of big words. So, a writer of pyrotechnic virtuosity and profound compassion, a mind to which nothing human is alien. David Mitchell spins genres, cultures, and ideas like gossamer threads around and through these 9 linked stories. Many forces bind these lives, but at the root, all involve the same universal longing for connection and transcendence, an axis of commonality that leads into directions, to creation and to destruction. In the end, as lives converge with fearful symmetry, Ghostwritten comes full circle to a point at which familiar idea that whether the planet is vast or small is merely a matter of perspective strikes home with the force of a new revelation and marks the debut novel of a writer with astounding gifts. This sounds right up my alley. A lot of people I know, a lot of friends love David Mitchell, so I'm finally going to be getting to him as I own like 3 different books, so I really need to get to it. But I just love those themes of how we are all connected in some kind of way, and that the world really is small. Like, as it said, it's your perspective. It can be big or small. To me, it is small. At least at the moment, that's what I'm thinking, because that is something ever-changing, like our mind should be, but cannot wait to get to Ghostwritten. We have another nonfiction, and that is Washington, A History of Our National City by Tom Lewis. Look at that cover. I love it. I love Washington. It's my favorite place in the world. But let's see what the book is about. I'm just going to be reading off my phone for the rest. I know I like scripting my videos, but honestly, I've been here for 14 minutes and I think I need to hurry up. So on January 24th, 1791, President George Washington chose the site for the young nation's capital, 10 miles square. It stretched from the highest point of navigation on the Potomac River and encompassed the ports of Georgetown and Alexandria. From the moment the federal government moved to the District of Columbia in December of 1800, Washington has been central to American identity and life. Shaped by politics and intrigue, poverty and largesse, contradictions and compromises, Washington has been, from its beginnings, the stage on which our national dramas have played out. Love that description of the city because that is all so true. It is our national center, Frederick Douglass once said of Washington, D.C. It belongs to us, whether it is mean or majestic, whether arrayed in glory or covered in shame, we cannot but share its character and its destiny. Interweaving the story of the city's physical transformation with a nuanced account of its political, economic, and social evolution, Lewis tells the powerful history of Washington, D.C., the site of our nation's highest ideals and some of our deepest failures. Oh my gosh, that is a fantastic description. And Frederick Douglass, I like that quote. So if you guys have any Frederick Douglass recommendations, let me know. I did start to read something by Frederick Douglass my junior year of high school, but I didn't finish because I transferred. But that was a very good quote. But yes, Washington. Let's see, are the pictures in color? No, they're not. See, I was telling y'all where to go. I can't even find it now. Yeah, black and white, but that picture is from 1847. Oh, that's the drawing. My bad. We have our science fiction pick now. Last year I did like one from every genre, but this year I really just went in being like, what do I think is going to be a 5-star? So let's see The Actual Star by Monica Byrne. The Actual Star takes readers on a journey over thousands of years and 6 continents, collapsing 3 separate timelines into one cave in the Belizean jungle. In each era, age-old questions about existence and belonging and identity converge deep underground, because only in complete darkness can one truly see the stars. So again, I love when you can connect timelines all across time and that they're all going to have that root in the Belizean jungle, and then add sci-fi vibes, because our timelines are one like in the modern day, I think, and then there's one in the future. So maybe there's one in the past as well, in the Mayan times it looks like. So I think that should be interesting just to combine all those time periods. And this one just sounds right up my alley for sci-fi. I did add a romance pick as well, and that is Love, Comment, Subscribe by Kathy Yardley. Y'all please do this. Like this video, comment, and subscribe. That'd be awesome. But let's see what this book is about. So back in high school, Lily Wang wanted to be popular, but she considered herself lucky to be part of a tight group of oddballs and honor students called the Nerd Herd. Now at 28, she feels like she's finally on the cusp of succeeding as a beauty influencer. If she can hit 5 million subscribers, that's a ton. Brands will take notice and she could get her own makeup line. Fellow Nerd Herd alum Tobin Bowie has had a lot of success as a YouTube gamer, but the road to online stardom has been rocky. First, he disappointed his parents by dropping out of college. Now, after years of pranks, skits, and playthroughs, he's struggling to come up with the new content to satisfy his ever-growing fan base. His agent says he needs cross-audience appeal, a new twist, so they come together as YouTubers and do a big collab because they'll both benefit from it. And as a YouTuber, I think this sounds super interesting, and maybe one day I'll find a YouTube boyfriend. I'm not looking, but you never know. So this one should be cool to pick up. Now we have a classic, and that is Play It As It Lays by Joan Didion. I read another book by Joan Didion last year. It was a short story collection, so I want to see what her fiction is like. That's very short chapters, which I love, but let's see what Play It As It Lays is about. A ruthless dissection of American life in the late 1960s, Play It As It Lays captures the mood of an entire generation. The ennui of contemporary society reflected in spare prose that blisters and haunts the reader, set in a place beyond good and evil, literally in Hollywood, Las Vegas, and the barren wastes of the Mojave Desert, but figuratively in the landscape of an arid soul, it remains more than 3 decades after its original publication, a profoundly disturbing novel, riveting in its exploration of a woman and society in crisis, stunning in the still startling intensity of its prose. So I really love Joan Didion's writing, and then the 1960s is one of my favorite eras, so I cannot wait to pick up Play It As It Lays. We have our one fantasy pick, and that is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I haven't been in a huge fantasy mood, but I absolutely love The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, so I definitely wanted to check out her new book. So in 1828, Robin Swift, orphaned by cholera in Canton, is brought to London by the mysterious Professor Lovell. There he trains for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he'll enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. For Robin, Oxford is a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. But knowledge obeys power, and as a Chinese boy raised in Britain, Robin realizes serving Babel means betraying his motherland. As his studies progress, Robin finds himself caught between Babel and the shadowy Hermes Society, an organization dedicated to stopping imperial expansion. When Britain pursues an unjust war with China over silver and opium, Robin must decide. So I really like that we have the historical setting as well. So I don't know how the fantasy is going to play a part of this, but I kind of like that with the Poppy War series is about Japan and China, their feuds in World War II. So this one is more, but it's set like, the places have different names, I should say, for the Poppy War. But this has like real locations, which I find to be super interesting. I just want to see how this is going to be a fantasy novel. Now we have what I'm considering the big three. These are ones I've been wanting to get to forever. And the first one is the love songs of W.E.B. Dubois. And this is it's covering Henri Fanon Jeffers. The great scholar W.E. Dubois once wrote about the problem of race in America and what he called double consciousness, a sensitivity that every African American possesses in order to survive. Since childhood, Ailey Pearl Garfield has understood Dubois' words all too well. Bearing the names of 2 formidable Black Americans, the revered choreographer Alvin Ailey and her great-grandmother Pearl, the descendants of enslaved Georgians and tenant farmers, Ailey carries Dubois' problems on her shoulders. To come to terms with her own identity, Ailey embarks on a journey through her family's past, uncovering the shocking tales of generations of ancestors, indigenous, Black, and white, in the Deep South. In doing so, Ailey must learn to embrace her full heritage, a legacy of oppression and resistance, bondage and independence, cruelty, resilience, and that is the story and the song of America itself. Great final paragraph there. As I love reading stories about families through generations, and it's in the South, and how it was saying how those 3 different races, so to say, that she has to uncover. That was similar with me. I knew I had Native American ancestry, but I didn't know about my African ancestry, and I still don't know where it came from or anything. And that's something with a lot of Americans. A lot of people don't realize that their ancestors were from everywhere, really, and it just really makes you think about how all of that came together. So I feel like this one should be really good. And it was a part of Oprah's book club in 2021. Let's look at Crossroads by, what's his first name? I'm not seeing a first name, but Franzen. Oh, Jonathan Franzen, it's up there. So as we can see, this one looks very 70s, but let's see if it really does take place in the 70s. Okay, it's December 23rd, 1971, and heavy weather is forecast for Chicago. Russ Hildebrandt, the associate pastor of a liberal suburban church, is on the brink of breaking free of a marriage he finds joyless, unless his wife Marion, who has her own secret life, beats him to it. Their eldest child, Clem, is coming home from college on fire with moral absolution and has taken an action that will shatter his father. Clem's sister Becky, long the social queen of her high school class, has sharply veered into the counterculture, while their brilliant younger brother Perry, who's been selling drugs to 7th graders, has resolved to be a better person. Each of the Hildebrandts seeks a freedom that each of the other threatens to complicate. A tour de force of interwoven perspectives and sustained suspense, its action largely unfolding on a single winter day, Crossroads is the story of a Midwestern family at a pivotal moment of moral crisis. Jonathan Franzen's gift for melding the small picture and the big picture has never been more dazzlingly evident. So I love family tales, as I said. I love the 70s, and I find it interesting when an author can write something that takes place in one day, because you have to think of character development and everything. How can that all happen in one day? And when they can do it, it's amazing. And then how it said, melding the small picture and the big picture, that is something so important. A lot of people don't really take that in, and I think that's something important that we kind of see in the Overstory by Richard Powers, if you want that theme. But let's go to our last book here, and that is Still Life by Sarah Winman. I absolutely love this cover. It's beautiful. Tuscany, 1944. As Allied troops advanced and bombs fall around deserted villages, a young English soldier, Ulysses Temper, finds himself in the wine cellar of a deserted villa. There he has a chance encounter with Evelyn Skinner, a middle-aged art historian who has come to Italy to salvage paintings from the ruins and recall long-forgotten memories of her own youth. In each other, Ulysses and Evelyn find kindred spirit amongst the rubble of war-torn Italy, and set off on a course of events that will shape Ulysses' life for the next 4 decades. With beautiful prose, extraordinary tenderness, and burst of humor and light, Still Life is a weeping portrait of unforgettable individuals who come together to make a family and a richly drawn celebration of beauty and love in all forms. So Tuscany, we talked about the Medici earlier, that they ruled that place, so love that. So I love Italy, as I only say, went there, loved it, favorite place. And then art historian, I love art, and I love the history of art, and especially, this is probably had the Italian Renaissance somewhere thrown in there, as we are in Tuscany. And then it says shapes his life for the next 4 decades, so maybe we're following him for multiple decades, which I love when stories do. Those are all of the books that I think are going to be 5 stars in 2023. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it all the way through, leave a bird emoji in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!